The situation in Minneapolis just escalated again. Rioters are attempting to tear down fences outside ICE facilities, openly coordinating, waiting for the numbers before they strike. Anti-ICE protesters stormed the Minnesota Capitol, and while federal agents remain under siege, 24 Democrat lawmakers are flying in to rally against ICE, and the organizers, Ilhan Omar and Tom Homan, just met with President Trump, and what happens next could actually change everything. Now, what is at risk here is nothing less than federal authority in the United States. When rioters can storm a Capitol building, mob federal facilities, and coordinate attacks on law enforcement, while elected officials travel in to support them, you're watching the collapse of the rule of law in real time. What we already know is that these mobs are capable of. A known gang member with a violent rap sheet smashed open a weapons locker inside an FBI vehicle and stole a rifle and ammunition. He's since been arrested, but the image is seared into the national memory. Governor Walz was warned repeatedly to restore order, and he refused. The journalists on the ground confirmed state leadership ignored every request. If Minnesota will not protect federal officers, the federal government has only one card left to play, and President Trump has made clear he is ready to play it. And if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Many investors discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means that their savings are tied to markets, policies, and paper assets with very little protection. If conditions change, that is where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. Visit nextnewsgold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. The link is in the description. Now, Tom Homan met with President Trump about invoking the Insurrection Act. He called it a viable option and warned that there will be more bloodshed if something is not done. Elon Musk told his 232 million followers that it's time to invoke the Insurrection Act immediately. James Woods called the violence a funded insurrection. Laura Ingraham said the idea that this is some organic uprising is ludicrous. And Homan dropped this: they know who's funding these organized groups, and justice is coming their way very, very soon. Border Hawk posting this. Thank you, Nick Sortor. You are a great patriot who deserves a Pulitzer Prize for your fearless, honorable reporting. The Border Hawk team is proud to stand with you. Nick Sortor doing absolutely amazing work on the ground there. This praise for him sets up his credibility before we dive into the explosive reporting on the Insurrection Act. Here is the president.
What's the trigger for the Insurrection Act in Minnesota? What are you waiting for?
Well, the Insurrection Act, which has been used by 48% of the presidents as of this moment, the Insurrection Act also, if you look at it, I believe it was Bush, the elder Bush, he used it, I think, 28 times. It's been used a lot. And if I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
Well, I think you need to use it, buddy. It's long overdue, and his direct threat actually escalates quickly when we see the organized groups who are behind the chaos Chicago One Ray. Consequences, Laura Ingraham, the idea that some organic uprising is ludicrous. Tom Homan, we know there's organized groups. We know who's funding. Justice is coming their way. We are all over this. Here he is talking to Laura Ingraham.
But the idea that this is some organic uprising is ludicrous. I was there. It was obvious. It was not organic.
Well, you're exactly right. And there's deep dive right now between HSI, IRS, and FBI. We know there's organized groups. We know there's funding. And we're doing a deep dive right now to identify them, follow the money, and find out who's organizing this, who's inciting the violence. And justice is coming their way. So we're all over this. We just had increased number of attorneys to Minnesota, number of agents. But there's a separate part of that. We're looking at the financials. We're looking at who's funding this, who's antagonizing this, and they'll be held accountable, Laura. We're all over it. You should hear something real soon.
Well, we're waiting. We're waiting. Laura Ingraham and Tom Homan's intel about organized funding leads us straight to the Capitol storming. Anti-ICE protesters storming the Minnesota State Capitol. Clearly insurrection, right? Yeah, that's the insurrection there, real time. But there is even more. The Capitol breach gives context for why lawmakers are now rushing to Minnesota. Take a look at this. 24 Democrat lawmakers traveling to Minnesota to rally against ICE. They called it Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's deadly assault on Minnesota. And guess who's organizing it? Ilhan Omar.
Well, now more than 24 congressmen and women are traveling to Minnesota. They're having this field hearing on what they're calling, quote, Trump's lawless assaults on communities. They're calling it Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's deadly assault on Minnesota. They're featuring people who will speak to personal trauma and constitutional violations. Right. Guess who's organizing this? Representative Jayapal and Ilhan Omar. Right. Then there's going to be a presser to follow, and then they're going to tour an ICE facility. They're going to Baltimore to do that, and they're calling for the impeachment of Kristi Noem.
Right, exactly. And these congressmen are all Democrats.
Of course they are, because they are just trying to create more problems. Ilhan Omar organizing Democrat resistance creates the perfect storm that even Fox News is covering it. Greg Gutfeld eviscerating Jessica Tarlaw for attacking agents. How naive of you. Watch this.
Create the environment, and then you complain about the consequences. When you kick over a beehive, don't complain when the bees come after you.
Don't say that every single one of those
people
people
poke a bear, don't say, I can't believe the bear's chasing me.
You have a right to stand there and yell at
That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about you guys deliberately creating an environment so that there is chaos. And when there is chaos, you go, oh my God, someone gets hurt. What do you expect in chaos?
You don't think that they're trying to create chaos?
Yes.
What they're the ICE officers.
These organizations desire chaos.
Going in and
how naive are you?
And it wouldn't be you wouldn't have this chaos.
She's like, what, you think these ICE guys going in there and taking kids? They're taking kids. Are you serious? Yeah, no. And Gutfeld's 100%. 100% right. You know why? Because those ICE agents are not going in there to create chaos. They're going in there under the rule of law to execute the law. And the chaos is instigated on the other side because they are trying to evade or distract. Gutfeld's rant builds up to Tom Homan's bombshell meeting announcement. Says he's meeting with President Trump about potentially invoking the Insurrection Act in Minnesota. It is time.
Is it time for the Insurrection Act, or would that just add gasoline to the fire?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that, but it's certainly an option, a viable option. So actually, I'll be meeting with the president tomorrow. So, you know, I think it's something that needs to be on the table because this cannot continue. There is going to be more bloodshed. I'm telling you. I hope I'm wrong, but I haven't been yet. There's going to be more bloodshed if something hasn't done.
It's going to spread, and most Minnesotans, by the way, and I want to say this tonight because folks have reached out to me, support ICE. It's this radical group of anarchists, and when you see them close up, you really get a sense of who they are. It's this crowd, a lot of them paid, a lot of them working, double shifts of protest against the rest of the state, which are reasonable, common sense, peaceful people of all backgrounds, including immigrant backgrounds. They don't like what's happened in the Twin Cities, and we're going to expose more about Jacob Fry in a moment. But, Tom, I think most people are good people. They want the bad people out, and they want some peace in their neighborhoods.
And we're going to get the bad people out. And as far as the organization, everybody that's planning these protests, giving these people weapons and funding this, again, justice is coming because we're deep diving that whole thing.
Deep diving the whole thing. They're going deep to find out where the money is flowing. His warning about the bloodshed sets up the official White House response. Would you support President Trump invoking the Insurrection Act to save Minneapolis? Bridging us to the actual threat in President Trump's own words, posting this to Truth Social. If the corrupt politicians in Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump's official ultimatum, triggering immediate support from his biggest allies, MAGA voice. At 12:56 a.m., Elon Musk announced to his 232 million followers, it is time to invoke the Insurrection Act immediately. Time to protect our cities. Elon's platform is amplifying the call. Shows that there's real-time escalation at the riot site. Rioters attempting to break down the fence outside the Minneapolis ICE facility. But another rioter jumped in and said, we don't have the numbers yet. This is why the Insurrection Act must be invoked now before it's too late. Cam Higbee capturing this.
Somebody's telling us stuff.
Oh shit, they're coming deep. Oh fuck. They destroyed lives, dude. It comes really easily from a white dude to say to keep the peace.
We don't have the numbers yet. The rioters planning their next move proves what congressional calls are intensifying. Yet another violent night of riots in the streets of Minneapolis. Elon Musk, several members of Congress are calling for Trump to immediately invoke the Insurrection Act. That is what Musk posted. Here's some more footage.
Back up! You're all cowards! You're all cowards! Fucking cowards!
It just keeps getting crazier. Multiple voices demanding action culminates in James Wood's blunt assessment. Just do it because the anarchy and violence in Minnesota is nothing short of a funded insurrection, quote tweeting President Trump. And he's calling it a funded insurrection leads to the proof of the consequences for the rioters. Doc Washburn repos, we caught one of the individuals that was part of destroying the FBI vehicles. He will now be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. His life has been changed forever due to his foolishness. Don't be like him. And of course, he has a face tattoo. The arrest news transitions perfectly to Democrats fighting back against the crackdown. Resist the mainstream. Representative Dan Goldman claims that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is not only inept and incompetent, she's incredibly dangerous.
Are you going to sign on to the bill to impeach Kristi Noem that was introduced?
Yes.
A number of your colleagues signed on to it today?
Yes. Kristi Noem, to me, it is more just another way of sending a message that Kristi Noem is not only inept and incompetent, she's incredibly dangerous. We cannot wait for an impeachment to play out. She should be fired today. And next week, when we deal with the appropriations, we need to deal directly with Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, which is just completely out of control and has turned into essentially a militia that is terrorizing cities, Democratic cities all around the country.
Yeah, those are fighting words right there. Those are words of an insurrectionist. And that is exactly why the Insurrection Act is about to be triggered. He's calling the individuals who are enforcing the law militia, thugs, Nazis. See, President Trump's drawn the line. If the corrupt politicians in Minnesota do not obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking ICE, he will institute the Insurrection Act. Many presidents have done it before. The question is no longer whether it's justified. The question is how much more damage will be allowed before it happens. Minneapolis is the warning shot, and the clock is ticking. So this is not a protest movement that got out of hand. This is a coordinated assault on federal authority, funded and organized while Democrat politicians provide cover. Mobs storm state capitals. Fences are torn down outside ICE facilities. Instead of calling for order, elected officials fly in to rally against the agents under attack. Governor Walz ignored every warning. State leadership let this fester for years, and now the president stands ready to trigger the Insurrection Act, a tool used by presidents throughout American history when states refuse to uphold the law. Tom Homan says they know who is funding this and justice is coming. The real question is simple. Whose side are these politicians on? My question for you, should President Trump invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota? Yes or no? Answer in the comments. And if you want to stand with us, check out the Next News merch shop linked in the description.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.